Why have we come to earth? Do you remember? Why have we taken birth? Do you remember?
Good morning. I was looking for a prop for, or thinking about a prop or how I could do, a visual for make a mess, and then I just did. I took a swallow of water during the prayer and it went the wrong way. And so it's like, oh yeah, make a mess of the message. Okay. So how are you today? Good. Me too. Just got back from a couple of days at the coast and supporting Reverend Angelica Taggart and being installed at the Center for Spiritual Living in Eureka, which was really nice. Our little foster baby Oliver got to experience sand for the first time on the beach, so it was kind of a fun weekend. So we're on the topic this week, this month, this whole month of creativity. And what we've talked about is that the creative power of the universe is always flowing. It's always on, right? There's no moment that it shuts down. God doesn't take a nap. Maybe it does, I don't know, but it's still flowing even during the nap time. So this process is constantly flowing, but are we being creative with the creation process that's moving through us, or are we just allowing it to recreate the same old thing over and over and over again through us? And so that's where we want to start to become conscious of, what am I in consciousness creating? What am I doing in consciousness that is the creativity? So the way the universe creates is fresh and new expressions all the time, constantly, new. That's how God creates. Have you noticed there's no other person like you? Yes. Thank you, Luke. There's nobody like Luke. There's nobody like me. There's nobody like you, okay? There's nobody like the person sitting next to you. Now, sometimes we go, darn, and sometimes we go, thank God, But there's nobody else like you. There's no fingerprints that match. There's no two snowflakes that are alike. The universe creates and creates and creates anew, over and over and over again, constantly flowing, constantly new. We get to direct in our own lives that creative power. Oftentimes, the reason that we don't create something new is because we're afraid of, what's the talk title today? Making a mess. We're afraid of making mistakes. We're afraid of doing something wrong, getting disapproved of, shunned, kicked out of the tribe, ostracized, all that stuff. So God's creative process. There's a story of a farm agent who was out visiting farms, and he came up to this particularly beautiful farm, and the farmer was sitting up on the front porch, and he walked up to the farmer and he says, your farm is so beautiful. God has blessed you so much with this beautiful farm. The farmer says, yes, he has. But you should have seen it when he had it all to himself. God's process is messy. By the way, the farmer, to make that beautiful farm, had to do what? Make a mess. Had to cut things down and dig things up and all this stuff. If you want to remodel your house, what's the first step you do? You make a mess. How many of us have done remodels, right? And sometimes, in the reading we talk about the high tolerance for mess. Anybody who's gone through a remodel has a higher tolerance for mess than you did when you first started. Anybody who's ever had a child has a high tolerance for messes, And so that's part of the creative process. It's a messy process. Even if you're going to just reorganize your closet, the first thing you have to do is pull everything out, and it looks what? You don't want to have that aunt of yours that comes over with a white glove doing the inspection. You do not want her there during that time. Okay? So it looks messy. So we have to, in order to start something going in the creative process, we have to be willing to make a mess. We have to be willing to unarrange, disarrange, deconstruct things and allow it in order for them to be reconstructed. Right? So, God's process of creation, we call it ecology, isn't one word that we give to it. And it's messy. It looks messy, right? You've seen it? It looks messy. Except that underlying that, as we become more aware of it, there's an order. There's a process, there's homes for animals, there's all this intricate order to the process, isn't there? And so it looks messy to our intellect, to our mind, because our intellect likes neat, tidy, and in order. Because our intellect is basically lazy. It wants to figure it out once and not have to figure it out again. And so it likes it when we can know exactly how life works, and I've got it down pat, and I can walk through my life, and I don't have to think about it too much. And you know people like that. Nobody here, but you know people like that. We don't really have to challenge ourselves into rethinking whatever it is that's going on. And the intellect is very comfortable with that. Meanwhile, our heart and our intuition, our soul is screaming and crying out, going, I want some juice going on. I want some mess. I want some organic process. I want something flowing going on in my life. Have you noticed? Creative people always have some juice for it. Some of you have, and some of you. But anyways, creative people always have a juice. They always have an urge. They always have something pushing them forward to want to create something more. It's that, a friend of mine calls it divine discontent. It's that process that moves us forward. Because instead of just being comfortable where I am, I have to say something more, because the urge calls me to say something more than just being comfortable where I am. The urge calls me to be more, calls me to let something out and express more. So do we give in to that urge? Do we say yes to that urge? True creativity can be called the path of no path. True creativity takes us where we haven't been before. See, the intellect likes paths. It knows, again, the nice, neat way to go. True creativity says, I'd like to go there and I have no idea how to get there. Let's create a way, let's find a way. Let's just go there. True creativity takes us where we haven't been before. In the reading, and I love this reading from Robert Fritz, wherever we hit it, the 2 steps in the creative process: create and adjust. Okay? When we start to say, this is what I want to create, Mozart did not write his 40th symphony when he was 5 years old and started first writing music, did he? It took him a few more years. Now, he wrote some brilliant stuff when he was young, but he got better and better and better at it. And I'm sure the first thing that he played on the piano, and the first things that he wrote probably weren't quite that brilliant. Okay? Nobody creates what they want the very first time out. Edison, how many times, thousands of times to create the light bulb. He created the phonograph, by the way, out of accident. He was actually working on a better telephone system, and out of that process, he figured out a way to record sound, and that was the phonograph. It was kind of an accident. It was off on the side. In fact, there's a ton of things, hundreds of common things that were originally mistakes. Penicillin was a mistake. Silly putty was a mistake. One of the greatest inventions of humankind if you were a kid. Potato chips were and still are a mistake. The glue used on Post-it notes was a mistake. It was supposed to be a stronger glue, and it came out too weak, but they said, hey, we can use it for this. Tons and tons of things. There are books out there about how many things are mistakes. The other thing to realize is that most of life is off course. Vehicles, whenever we're driving them, an airplane flying from here to Hawaii is off course 93% of the time. You know that? The pilot is constantly adjusting. Watch yourself as you drive down the road. You're making micro adjustments with your steering wheel. You're off course most of the time. We got back from driving to and from the coast, and there were a couple of people who were off course more blatantly and more of the time. But we're constantly readjusting as we go. This is just the natural creative process. So are we willing to make mistakes? Are we willing to be off course some of the time? And sometimes recognizing that our version of off course, which is the intellect's version of off course, is on course. It's exactly where we need to be. How many of us have had a situation in our lives where we've gone what we thought was the long way around, and I don't mean necessarily on a road trip, but in doing anything in our life, and we've thought we're off on the wrong track, and suddenly it all works out, and we go, oh my God, I could have never planned that in a million years if it wasn't for me taking that funny little, what I thought was a mistake. Many of us have had that happen. Yes? Yes. Many of us have had that happen. In the book Creativity in Taoism, there's a wonderful story about the painter Wu Wei, one of the great Chinese painters of the 13th century. He said, once when sent for by the court to paint a picture of pines in the running stream. I love this because the emperor has summoned him and he's told him the topic he's going to paint. In the court, not out by the pines in the running stream, but he's going to paint this in the court in front of the emperor, so there's no spontaneity about the topic whatsoever. The artist Wu Wei had not yet fully recovered from his intoxication. When in front of the emperor, he inadvertently knocked over the ink jar and some ink splashed on the silk. Taking advantage of the splashed ink, he made a wonderful drawing. Okay? That's create and adjust. I had a friend years ago who was a great garage sale shopper, and she found this beautiful red leather jacket. It was $3. Real leather, $3. Do you know why it was $3? It had an ink stain where somebody had splashed ink on it over here on one shoulder. And so she bought that jacket for the $3. She took it to an artist friend of hers who worked in ink drawings, and he took that ink blot and made a beautiful drawing on this jacket. So for $3 and whatever she was a massage therapist, I think she gave him a massage in exchange for that, bartered with that. So for $3 and a massage, she had this one-of-a-kind, beautiful, bright red leather jacket with this phenomenal drawing all over the one side of it. Okay? That's creativity. That's seeing potential. Most of us would look and say, oh, too bad, that jacket is ruined, which is exactly what the person who had it did. The artist, when we're in our artist mode, when we're in our creative mode, sees something different and isn't afraid of the mess, isn't afraid of the mistakes. Robert Fritz also says, if what you do first doesn't work out the way you hoped, you might conclude that you should just stop, give up, and not continue to create what you want. This reinforces an experience of powerlessness. On the other hand, if you care enough about something, you will be willing to push past temporary failure repeatedly if necessary on the way to achieving what you want. This reinforces an experience of your own creative power. We're constantly teaching our own subconscious mind. What do we believe? What do we expect? If I expect to fail, if I expect that the first time I encounter failure, I'm going to stop and judge it as a failure and say that's enough, we will teach ourselves that that's how I go through life. And again, we've seen people like that. I know you're not here. Those people are not here. And I'm serious, you're not. But we've seen people who do that. Sometimes we hit something that's a big traumatic failure. A relationship breaks up, the job we love breaks up, and then we stop. A loved one dies, and then we stop. The question is, can we take that failure and turn it again into something greater? I know Sylvia, who's our bookkeeper's daughter, had her home and everything she owned destroyed by fire. That would be devastating for some people. But instead, she's taken it and made it a career to create fire awareness, and is going out through the whole state, creating fire awareness, schools, training programs, and she's been highly recognized for that. This is a person who took a mistake, took a mess, and made something really wonderful out of it that helps her and is helping everybody else. And the thing that helps us when we do that, the thing that helps us to move past the mess or through the mess, is our purpose. Do we have, as he says, something that we care about enough? A purpose that is driving us enough? A vision that is calling us forward enough? Michael Beckwith says that we are pushed by pain until we are pulled by a vision. Do we have a vision that is pulling us passionately enough that we care about it, that we will walk through mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake? There's a wonderful, the story of Abraham Lincoln. I forget how many times he ran for election and got defeated, but it was a ton of them. And his wife dies and all this stuff, and it's like, he loses this election, he loses this election, he loses this election, he gets elected President of the United States. One of the best presidents we've ever had in history. Okay? There's a little video out there that talks about different failures. The Beatles were turned down by, I think it was Capitol Records, because they didn't like their sound and guitar groups were on their way out in 1962 or 3. Okay? Lucille Ball was turned down because she couldn't act. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team because he wasn't good enough. So he went home and cried, and then he got better. Okay? So that's somebody who takes a mess, a disappointment, a mistake, and works through it. So where in our lives have we got mistakes that we want to work through? Where in our lives do we have something we're passionate enough about to create? Each of you has something in your heart that wants to be created through you. And you know what? You know what it is. In some cases, it's the one you're sitting there going, I don't want to talk about that. And others just say, it's like, yeah, I do, and I'm not sure how to get there from here. Okay? And that's where it's like we start to turn it over to the universe. We start to say, you know what? I was called to do this. When I was in practitioner studies, I knew that I was called to be a practitioner for this teaching. But I hit a point where I was stuck. I took a year off between Prac 1 and Prac 2. And I finally went back to God and said, okay, look, I know you called me to be a practitioner. It's my call. I'm saying yes. Make the way straight. Make it clear. And you know what? Stuff just started to fall right into place right after that. I had to turn it over, but I also had to be passionate enough about that purpose, about that calling, and to be clear, yes, I do want this. We have to say the yes to the creative energy that wants to come through us. We have to say yes. This is Emerson's famous, get your bloated nothingness out of the way of the divine circuit, the flow of the divine circuits. We have to say yes. Only we can shut it down. It's flowing. We have to say yes. So what is my heart and my passion calling me to do? What is it that I'm passionate enough about that, yeah, I'm willing to make a mess. Yeah, I'm willing to fail. Yeah, I'm willing to get up and try again. So just be aware of that. Sit with that for a moment. Ministry isn't always the easiest thing to do. I've had a number of people who walk by me and look at me and go, I wouldn't want your job for anything. And I make mistakes, in case you haven't noticed. And yet, I'm passionate about ministry, and I'm passionate about the ministry of this church. And so it's like, fall down, get up. Fall down, get up. Fall down, get up, And we keep walking forward, and we keep doing that together. This church is passionate enough about this idea of the Center for Spiritual Living here in Reading. We fall down, we get up. We fall down, we get up. Okay? We keep moving forward together. And so what do you have in your life that you're willing to, for you individually, that will keep you getting up from the mistakes? And are you willing to go through the messy process and the messy parts of it in order to keep going and create what it is that you truly want? And I'll tell you, when you get there, because I've been there, all the mistakes don't matter, do they? Some of you have had that experience. Many of you have probably had that experience too, in a small or large way. And the mistakes don't matter anymore. When you find that true love of yours, when you find that work that you know is your right work, when you create that piece of art or whatever that you know was yours to create, you sit there and all the mistakes don't matter. When you have a child, Many of you have had children. Just ask any woman who's done childbirth. The first time you do it, you're in the middle of it, you're sitting there going, I'll never do this again. And a few months later, you're plotting your next child. Many. Some not. When I was a hardcore cyclist, there was a bike ride called the Ramrod. 10,000 feet of climbing, 156 miles in one day around Mount Rainier. And I did it one time. I remember I was doing it, and I came down to the last food stop, which is about 40 miles from the finish, just finished all the real nasty climbing. Pulled into the food stop, saw a couple of friends, and I said, if I ever say that I'm going to do this ride again, please shoot me and put me out of my misery early. The next day, I was already planning how to do the ride faster and better the next time, for next year. Okay, so are we willing to move through that mess? Are we willing to move through the pain, the embarrassment, the looking awkward, and go for what we want? So this week, what I'm going to invite you to do, 3 things. Number 1 is choose something to create. And for some people, it's not choose. For some of you, it's not choose. It's reawaken. Allow that which you know is yours to create to become more forward in your mind. To simply say, you know what, I will do that. What would I love? A couple of good questions. What would I love? What would I love? Not, what would I like in my life? No, what would I love to have in my life? Another way I look at this is, if I get to the end of my life, and I'm laying on my deathbed, what is it that I'm going to be really ticked off about if I haven't done it? If I haven't, because I know it was mine to do when I came here. What is it that I'm going to be really upset if I haven't done it? Okay, so that's the other way of looking at that. What would I love, or what am I going to be really upset about if I haven't done it? Okay, and then the other question is, if I could have it, would I? If I could have this, would I have it? Okay, so that's the first step. Choose something to create. Secondly, visualize yourself already having it and being there. We're going to talk about this a little bit more in the next service. I've got a different talk in the next service. But part of it is we can't get there from here. Wherever you want to go, you can't get there from here. Because here is how you operate here. And where you want to be is there, and that's a different way of operating. If you're doing a significant shift in your life, you're doing a significant way of being that's different than what it is, than what you are currently. And so you have to start to visualize yourself. You have to start to live from that place and remember backwards, how did I get there? I'm already here living this way. I'm already living this consciousness. How did I get there? Or just, am I just willing to live here? In quantum physics, it used to be thought that everything left a path that could be traced back as it moved. In quantum physics, they found that I believe it's a neutron could be here one moment and out here the next moment, and there was no visible trace. There was no visible path. There was no way to track it. Okay, it's literally called a quantum leap or quantum tunneling. We can do that. We can do that. That should be exciting. We don't have to know the logic of how to get from here to there. We have to just choose to be there. And then start to live as we would if we were that person who's already there. If I want to create a work of say, visual art, how would I be as that person who's a visual artist? I would probably be painting, wouldn't I? I'd probably be having supplies. I'd probably be doing something about it. Okay? So visualize yourself already being there and having it. Get fully sensorily, get your senses fully involved. See it, feel it, smell it, taste it, touch it, experience it. Breathe it in. What's it like? That's the second step. And then the third step is take action. Take action towards it. And then adjust. Take action towards it. And adjust some more. Take some more action and adjust some more. Okay? So that's your homework, if you will, your suggestions this week. Number 1, choose something to create or allow it to come through you. say yes to that which you already know. 2, visualize. Really, really, really immerse yourself in already being there. And number 3, take some action and do whatever adjustments you need to do after the action. And most of us sit there and go, well, I would go there, but I don't know what to do. And do something. The idea of I won't do anything until I really know the right thing to do, and I'm going to wait for the stars to align and the best of times to show up, and the economy to be good, and my parents or my wife or husband or children to approve. You'll sit there waiting for the rest of your life, and probably another couple lifetimes too. Do something. Take an action. So that's my invitation for you for this week. Willing to play with that? Okay. And again, please come back and talk to me about what experiences you've had. What results have you had from this process? Because I think that if you start to do this and start to play with this, you're going to experience some fun stuff. And you're going to start to see some motion, some movement. Next week, we're going to talk about the idea of playfulness, which is a wonderful quality. It kind of goes with messiness, right? We're going to talk about playfulness. And it's okay to be playful. Most creativity takes place in a playful atmosphere when we're very serious. And I've just got to create something. Not a whole lot of creativity happens in that consciousness. So can we be playful? Can we loosen up and have some fun? So that's next week. So those of you who don't like to be playful, you don't want to be here next week. I'm going to close with a quote from Father Anthony de Mello. He said, "Those who make no mistakes are making the biggest mistake of all. They are attempting nothing new." Those who make no mistakes are making the biggest mistake of all. They are not attempting something new. So this week, attempt something new. Play where you've not played before. Make a mess. Okay? Have some fun. Let's pray. So knowing that there is only one infinite presence, and it's messy. Look at the universe. Stars scattered everywhere. Galaxies spinning around. We look at our planet, trees and underbrush and all this stuff growing everywhere. It's not neat. It's not pretty. It's beautiful. God is that infinite beauty. And underlying it all, there is a beautiful infinite order, oftentimes far beyond our own understanding and our own awareness. There's this beautiful infinite order, this wholeness, this creativity that is constantly flowing. And because that presence is infinite, constantly emanating out its creativity, constantly creating anew and afresh, we have to be one of it. We are that creativity. We don't have to look for creativity any more than a fish doesn't have to look for the ocean. We are immersed in that creativity right now. We are the creative expressions and the creative outlets of the divine. And so I speak my word that each of us this week allows ourselves to open to that flow of creativity and to create out of love, to create out of joy, to create out of passion, to create out of soul desire. Not necessarily intellectual whim, but soul, heart desire. What is it that wants to come through me that is truly mine to do and to give and to be? We allow ourselves to recognize that we are enough. There is nothing lacking or missing from us, because we are already that infinite presence in form. We are already creative enough. We already are that beauty, that love, that wisdom, that creativity, that playfulness, and that joy that God is. We are that. And so we allow that to express through us. We allow that to come forward into this manifest world, creating a world of even greater joy and love and beauty than has ever been seen before. And for this I'm grateful, for each person who says yes and dances and plays and gets involved in this process, gets all messy with this process, lets God get all over them and they get all over God, and it's gooey and it's fun and it's juicy. I give thanks for each of us who say yes to this process, to say yes to our creativity. And so I release this word into a law that knows exactly how to bring it into form and expression. We don't have to figure it out. We simply let it be, and it is done. And together we say, and so it is. Thank you.